these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Happy Halloween, 5 Fact Friday followers. Good morning and welcome to 5 Fact Friday on Friday the 31st of October. Oh, it's not going to work, is it? No. And sorry I'm late. Usual Friday morning chaos. Can't see the screen. Right, I think I'm going to take that off and put that on and get into it. As those of you who got my who get my newsletter will know, I was up quite late. Actually, no, maybe you won't. Maybe for next, I was up quite late last night. So I've not had a lot of sleep. And I'm Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Home with Charlie, and this for my many new followers, especially on X, where yesterday I picked up many of you. This is the video where I recap the 5 most significant newly reported facts in the housing market that I think are relevant to people considering moving. Buying or selling makes no difference. That graph is a graph of the first fact. I'll run through the facts in summary quickly. I'm very. I don't know why Fridays are always such an absolute calamity. How is everyone this morning? You all well? Are people in the comments already saying hi? Oh my God, loads of you. Does no one have any work to do? Oh, Boss Hog Capricious, Frustrated Home Buyer. Hello there. Joe Knob, FJ Cruiser, Hi Patricia, Rick Heath, Grasby. That's new. Good morning. I don't recognize that. Purple Howl, Peter Hedditch, Cayman Black, Timo2933. Yes, you're all here, and I'm not really here. I'm here in body, but not really in mind. But let me run you through the headlines for those of you who don't enjoy listening to me just blather on for 40 minutes. Right, so fact number 1, the most property ever for sale in Mayfair. So this is wrong, right? My first fact is clearly an error. It's not a typo, it's an error. I must have done it in a hurry. Most property ever for sale in Mayfair, some at a 50% discount. I misinterpreted it, and I will just put my hands up and go, but this is also proof that actually prices in Mayfair, some have come down by 50%. I got this because anyway, it's not been good in the Mayfair market, but there's a report out from the agent with the largest market share in Mayfair, which we'll run through briefly. Just so that it's a reminder for all of the new house price growth zombies who I referred to in my newsletter in the Thought of the Week last night, that you all have got this morning. I just need to keep on chipping away at the belief structure of those people who believe that it's just not possible. House prices cannot possibly fall that much. Well, I will open up that graph to show you just how big that drop is. That's in West Central London. UK new home sales plunged to lowest since last financial crisis. Now, I know we covered that last week, that the new build crisis in London is a big deal, but this is reported by the Times, as reported by Savills, and so rather than being just reported by a sort of obscure house building data company, it's now getting mainstream coverage. And again, amongst the house price boom zombies, the boom mongers and the zombies, who, by the way, they feed each other, those two. There is this unspoken belief that, that might be happening in new house builds, but that's not happening. That's not happening in the rest of the market. Maybe not the same, but it's still a valid point to consider because there's no up to date data, so we don't really know what's happening. Fact number 3: the Zoopla House Prices Index shows activity slowing significantly as buyer demand and sales agreed drop for the first time in 2 years. Otter Property put a publication out this week on X, which I will share with you, showing that almost all detached house market areas see price falls. So detached housing in the whole of the country, almost all areas, detached house prices are coming down, which I have known and felt for a long time, but there hasn't been any data to prove it. And so this is good. A ray of hope and sunshine. Bank of England mortgage approvals for September show a healthy increase from August, from 64,000 in August to 68,000 in September, showing demand at the first-time buyer level is stable. I mean, that had dropped from 77,000 in July, so there was quite a steep drop in July to August, and then a pickup in September. But these are not unhealthy levels, right? They're back in the 60,000s rather than the 40,000s where they were a year ago, and that is positive. And then, of course, the bonus fact is the whole fiasco with our Chancellor 24 hours ago claiming to not know that she needed a license to rent out her Dulwich home, and then less than 12 hours later go, oh no, actually no, we did know, we did know, but but we did know, but the agent said they'd do it anyway. We're really sorry. Is that okay? Can you just let us off, please? So there we are, guys. For those of you who don't like me droning on, that is under 7 minutes to do the 6 facts. But now I have to get into it properly, don't I? Why am I finding this particularly difficult this morning? I'm also, the other fact of the week is that I've got my Best Agent events coming up next week in Manchester on Tuesday. And I know agents watch this as well. I know this is a home mover social media channel, but I know a lot of agents watch it too. And you're all very welcome. And I love that you guys are watching it. I've got a bunch of agents coming to see me in Manchester on Tuesday at Worsley Park to talk through the whole no valuations process and how we've managed to completely collapse deal times, get every single property under offer in 28 days, and get fees up significantly from the 2 low levels that they are. This is for agents. That's the project I've been working on in Carrington's, in Kingston. We're sharing the results of that with other agents and talking to other agents who may be willing to, maybe looking to do something similar. And that's exciting because why does it affect you movers? Because I had someone yesterday send me a private message lamenting the nightmare for both buyers and sellers unnecessarily created by agents who in some and in many cases seem to want to get in the way of a transaction happening and literally seem to react in ways where both sides, I'll tell you what I mean, right? There are sellers following this channel who follow my advice, who turn around to their agents and say to the agents, we just want to drop the asking price to the level to get multiple viewings. That's what we want to do. We've heard about Charlie's channel, how it works. We want to do it. And most agents, it twists their brain because they've been zombified by the house price boom mongers going, we can't agree to that because it undermines our entire belief structure about the way we run our entire business. So no, that's not how we work. No, we can't. I'm not even joking. To intelligent agents, that will sound ridiculous because that is a dream. Most agents spend their time trying to persuade sellers to drop their asking price. And yet there are agents out there who, when the sellers say, no, I'm not interested in guessing valuations, I don't care about the asking price other than to make sure that it's where it needs to be to bring multiple viewers. And there are, honestly, 2/3 of agents who get asked that, and this is a rough plucking a figure out of the air, but about 2/3 of agents just go, oh, no, that's not a good idea. No, I wouldn't drop the price. I wouldn't drop the price. And I've given so much thought to why that would be when, hang on, guys, this literally means it's easy for you to sell the property and make a fee. But it's because agents convince themselves that the asking prices they've advised sellers to go on at are not too low and are the market value, whatever that is, because market value is only what a buyer will pay. So there are agents who've genuinely been zombified, brainwashed, completely zombified into thinking, no, I know the market value because I'm an agent. And that is their downfall as agents. And on the buyer's side, I've had people saying, look, I've been sending these offers to agents. I've sent them in everything, my mortgage approval, my proof of funds, my decision in principle, the mortgage, the conveyancing, everything ready to go. I'm like, and mine is the only offer. And the agents even said, yeah, well, we acknowledge yours is the only offer, but it's not market value, so the seller's not going to take it. Then buyer's like, but I am the market for this property. This is a real offer. So you've literally, this is the problem with, there are many, many different sectors of the industry that bring problems to the industry, right? But amongst agents, there is this, at least half of them, who are so stuck in the past with how they operate that they cannot get their head around the fact that their market value that they set with the seller might not be right. Chris Watkin put a video out yesterday interviewing an agent about and they were dissecting the difference. Well, there's overvaluing and then there's overpricing, and the two things are different. Come on, Chris, really? Come on. Watch that video back and see how it sounds if you're not an agent. What's the difference between overvaluing and overpricing? And I know you do attempt to. Anyway, so this is what I mean. I wrote in my thought of the week yesterday in the newsletter about this. The house price boom mongers brainwashing the house price zombies, and that is why there's this big standoff on price in the market. Covered up by the anyway, right? This is not Charlie Ramble Friday. It's 5 Fact Fridays. So let's get into it. Okay, so that graph there, right? That is WC, West Central London, which includes Mayfair. Okay. Where prices peaked in June 2023, and the change from the peak to now is minus 38.6%. So that is for terraced houses, which have done even worse than flats, which are 17% down. There aren't many semis in there. There aren't any semis. There are detached ones. I mean, they're tiny amounts, but it is possible, right? This is possible to see house price falls. Okay, so the new fresh zombies watching, right? And there are other areas where this is the case. House prices can fall that much in certain sectors. I'm not saying the whole market has yet, but the market is still going one way, pretty much wherever you look. Here is the post, and it's from Peter Wetherell, who has been the number one agent in Mayfair and a client of mine for longer than I care to admit, and someone I know very, very well, who has more insight to the Mayfair market than anybody. And he put out this post on LinkedIn last week, getting into some of the nitty gritty. Interesting to see here that secondhand stock selling between 4,000 and 5,000 per square foot, which is interesting because it's per square foot is quite an interesting metric to look at the difference in. Some would argue that's the difference in the land value because the value per square foot, whereas other parts of London, it's even in London, it's only £1,000 per square foot for some places. In fact, I had someone messaging me yesterday about buying a flat for their son, and they've got the price is about £1,000 per square foot. Anyway, that applies to a very small subset of people in the country, so we won't spend long on that. But if you are someone who's involved or interested in Mayfair property, Peter Wetherell is your man. There's no one else. He calls himself the Mayfair guru, and he really is. Right. Okay. Back onto more mainstream matters. So this is the Times 6 days ago reporting UK home sales plunged to lowest level since financial crisis. Now, as ever, the headline omits a word that makes it look a bit worse than it is, which is new home sales. That's what the report is actually about. But the Treasury has been warned that figures from Savills will make grim reading for those hoping a house building boom will boost the economy. Right. So this is the point they're making, is that everyone's pinning their hopes on the house building boom. Lots of booming today. Will not only solve the housing crisis, which it never will. Even if they were to build 1.5 million homes, it won't solve the housing crisis because it doesn't move the needle on prices enough. Okay, only supply and demand zombies think that new house building in large quantities would actually bring prices down, right? It doesn't, and if it did, they wouldn't build them. So sales of new build homes have sunk to lows not seen since the global crisis more than a decade and a half ago. Ministers have been warned. The numbers prepared by Savills, and this is unusual because Savills, as long-term viewers of this channel will know, have been repeat boom mongers, as in talking house prices up when they had no basis to do so. This year alone, Savills forecast house prices would rise. At the start of 2025, they said average house prices in the UK are going to go up 4% this year. Then halfway through the year, they went, did we say 4%? We meant 1%. So they definitely are part of the house price boom monger crew. So that's what makes it even more, I think, significant that they are putting this report out there. Ministers have put house building at the center of their plans to revitalize the UK economy. Yes, they haven't, and that's going to be their downfall. Steve Reed, Housing Secretary, has been doing his bluff, baby bluff, all over social media. Yeah, a lack of support for buyers. That means that a lack of support for buyers. That's code for help to buy, please. We want more help to buy. We want government money. We want our taxpayer money back to help people pay for new homes. Come on, you did it for 10 years. You gave us 20% of the value of every home we sold. You gave to people buying new builds, and 40% in London. You can't just take that money away because it'll make the house building industry collapse. Oh yes, whoops, that's happened. By the way, for everyone involved or affected by that collapse, this is horrific news. This is really, really bad news. Mothballing developments, and I had someone message me from Dorset about a specific building company asking if I knew anything about it, and I looked it up, and all the official figures were, no, it's all fine, it's all good, their developments are all on track, and then the word from the street and the actual no. Mothballing, laying off builders, laying off tradespeople, stopping building. And in other words, there's a lot of this happening going unreported at local levels. So this is the last point on this fact, and we'll move on, right? The estate agency, so this is how they measure new home sales. It's homes being sold per week per outlet, right? This is the metric they use. And it's an average across the UK of 0.3 homes being sold per week on each site. Right? The standard industry metric. In 2007 and 8, it was 0.4 per week. And the long-term norm in the 2010s was 0.7 per week. So we are below half what it was in the 2010s. And guys, it's not going up at the moment either. Even during the pandemic, sales volumes did not collapse to current levels because of Help to Buy. Yep. The currently in the southeast, it's worst of all, 0.2. So that's what they're selling, one house per week. Sorry, per month. Less than one house per month per outlet. That's not enough to support these guys. And then they cover this nonsense between Reid and Khan, who they're going to do stuff that they think we're in government, we're going to pull some levers and magically house building will resume. I mean, honestly, they must be absolutely panicking about headless chicken here. Anyway, that's that. Fact number 3. Zoopla. Now, on Monday this week, I did an in-depth dive into the Zoopla's House Price Index. Which is, I think, the index that's most worth taking time on because they offer the most breakdown. But it's this headline here, and again, Zoopla can be guilty of being part of the house price boom mongers party, but less so than the others normally. And it's their headline here, their first line here is the first annual decline in sales agreed in 2 years, and buyer demand is down. Right, so there's a graph somewhere here. This is the only point I wanted to make on this fact, which is this graph here. And it's both of those lines, purple and pink lines, are now below zero again. So year on year, they're now negative. And again, anyone who understands, because the housing market, and there's a lot of stuff I haven't talked about for a long time that I take for granted you guys know and you don't, which is that from the moment someone thinks about selling their house and thinks about choosing an agent to the moment they actually sell the house, typically it's actually about 12 months. Okay, because there's quite a long time before they actually come onto the market. Then there's a time on the market that they don't sell, and then there's a time that it's going to through to exchange, and the chain slows it down, etc. It's about a year. So there's this very, very, very slow time frame and time lag in all the property market data. And what we're seeing with all of this very negative data is we're seeing the data catching up with the reality. And what's actually happening on the ground on the front line of estate agents today is not what was being reported here, because this is lagged. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, do we think that what's happening on the front line of agents today is better than being reported, the same as it's being reported, or worse than being reported? What do we think is happening right now on the front line of agency? And as the next fact will show, or no, the one after, at certain levels of the market, there is activity, not price rises. Don't confuse. Like a lot of the zombies, house price zombies, think that if it's busy, that means prices are going up. And again, it's one of these unspoken myths that people believe. Oh, is it really busy? That must mean prices are going up. No, it doesn't. That's why Rightmove showed that first-time buyer prices are down year on year. Even though activity might be up, deals agreed that they're, again, Rightmove's data conflict with Zoopla's data, saying that deals agreed up 5% up on this time last year. Zoopla is saying that they're down on this time last year. What is it? Which one is it? Anyway, so for those of you, and I get questions from you every single day. We want to buy, we want to sell. What do you think is going to happen? Should we wait? I had a classic question, obviously from a very, very new first-time follower, come through yesterday. And it's, is it a good time to buy? I had no more information than that, other than the area. Is now a good time to buy? It's an impossible question to answer without a lot more background information for who, why are you buying, where are you buying, what kind of house is it, what's your financial position, what's your life position, what's your reason for buying, how long are you going to stay there. Only with answers to all of those questions can you answer that question. But generally speaking, as a recap for everybody, which is why there are first-time buyers still buying in reasonable numbers, is that if you're buying a home because you want to live in it and you're planning to stay there a long time, then as long as you don't overpay, it's always a good time to buy. There's very little point in waiting. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll wait. I'll sit back and wait until house prices have fallen. Even if house prices are falling, being out there, because of the time lag, by the time it's reported that house prices have stopped falling, you've missed it. They're already back on the up, typically. And it's about the move, not the money. So if you're in that position where you want to buy, but you're worried about what house price values might be doing, the best way to know what's happening where you're looking is to be out there in the market viewing. Right. That was the Zoopla one. Onwards. Here we are. Otter Property. So this is Otter Property's post on X from 2 days ago. And this graph, let's get it as large as we can. Those dots on the graph. So this is house price percentage change over a year ago, September 24 to September 2025, right? Grouped by postcode area. So each of these spots on the graph is a postcode area. There's Oxford in the middle, there's TN Tunbridge, there's Northwest London, West London down there, the bottom right-hand corner. We've got Doncaster. So all right, but as a picture, what you're looking at there is that the majority, these are just detached houses, right? only detached houses. But in most of the country, and this is land registry data, it's all the land registry data, right? That Otter Property uses in this. Most detached house prices are now on average down year on year. And of course, averages mask much bigger changes even at a local level, right? So among those average house price falls in most areas. Oh, sorry, lost connection there for a minute. Please tell me you can all still hear me. You're still there. Yeah. Among those local markets, there will be detached houses in varying levels of condition, different locations, maybe right by a railway track, maybe very rural, and there will be, so even at a local level, there'll be discrepancies. But this information helps to debunk the message from the house price boom mongers that's being lapped up constantly by the house price zombies. The house prices only ever go up, right? So have a look at the link. As ever, the link to all of these sources is below. If you're watching this somewhere where there aren't links, go to my website, mhwc.co.uk, and you'll see the 5 Fact Friday blog link. It's all there. You'll find it. Won't be hard. Okay, and I will take a few questions once I've finally finished my rambling. There's a lot of you today. Oh, wow. Interesting. Right, Bank of England data. Now, as ever, yesterday, this is mortgage approvals, right? Monthly number of total sterling approvals for house purchase to individuals, not seasonally adjusted, right? This is very important. So this is the actual number, not the distorted number. When you're looking at year-on-year figures, then seasonal adjustment does add some value to the measurement. When you're looking at month-on-month figures, which is what was reported, if you're reporting monthly figures, then you can't use seasonal because it's always wrong. It's always distorted, right? Monthly is very different. So to give you an example, right, and because most journalists don't bother to go and look at the non-seasonally adjusted number, the reports that came out on Bank of England mortgage approvals going up understated how much they went up. They said, oh, they went up by 1,000 from 64 to 65,000 or something like that. No, they went up by 4,000. The increase month on month was 4 times bigger than reported. So this is not me trying to talk it down, is it? See, it's just trying to bring the truth here. But what's interesting is to look at this line in the context of the last couple of years, or the last 5 years, goes back to 2020. Okay, so there was a long sort of trend down, hit the bottom 2023. This is volumes, remember, right? And then it started to trend up again from 23 to 24, and it's kind of basically stayed pretty much flat in the last 12 months, hovering between the 60 and 70,000. Although in July, it was 77,000 mortgage approvals. And then last month in August, it dropped to 64,000, which is a big drop for 1 month. But it's quite a spiky number. It's back up to 68,000 now. Okay. So it's all mortgages, not just first time buyers. And what it shows is that the activity levels in the section of the market which is powered by mortgages, as opposed to the one that's powered by cash transactions, which is completely not included here. The underlying demand is healthy, and this is slightly lagged, and this I suspect is still not yet showing the slowdown from the budget date being announced and everyone going, oh, let's slow down. I think we'll probably see this were September's numbers. So when October's numbers get reported, I would expect there to be, just for the month because of the budget, so October and November will probably drop down and then pick back up in the new year. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. And one of the reasons for pointing this out is that although I know I did a video recently where the house price is dead until 2026, I'm talking. So the house price is made up of the must movers, right? Death, debts, divorce, the people who have to buy, people who have to move. That never, ever, ever stops happening. But then above that, you've got the discretionary moves or the more discretionary moves, and that's where the beating heart of the housing market really is. And so if you kind of rule out that we move no matter what segment of the market, um, it's the other part of the market that's dead, right? Which is the part that keeps it busy. And if you're an agent, it's the difference between sitting in an office with the phone not ringing and nothing to do, because you've got a couple of deals tricking through, but they're now with the taking over with the conveyancers, and when it's busy and it's buzzing. So that's what I mean. That's what people mean, relatively speaking, with house price. And of course, you chop it up by different price levels as well. Above 500,000, it's much quieter. Above 1,000,000, it's very, very quiet. But even at those levels, if you know how to bring a property to the market properly, it's still busy, right? I'm working with Carrington still. I was in their offices this week. They tied up 4 sales this week. They're busy. They're busy. They are very busy with viewings, second viewings, offer negotiations. Why? Because I have cured them of their house price boommonger infection that most agents have. And interestingly, the boss of Carrington said to me just last week, he said, I look back now and I remember a year ago thinking that half of our stock was overpriced and we knew it, but the other half wasn't. The other half was priced sensibly. He said, look back now, and I realized no, it was all overpriced. But back then, I genuinely didn't believe it was all overpriced. I thought half of it was, yeah. And so that's the delusion that exists among many good agents, right? It's almost a sort of coping mechanism, a survival mechanism, because no good agent wants to admit to themselves, all of my stock is overpriced. I am guilty of overvaluing to get business. No agent wants to admit that to themselves. And with the agents I'm going to be meeting next week in Manchester, Bristol, and London, it's going to be very interesting because among those agents, some of them will not be able to be cured of that self-deception, that self-delusion. And some of them will. It's very interesting to see how it goes because it is there is nothing harder to break than someone's deeply held delusion. And the housing market as a whole, that's why I talk about house price zombies, right? They are just decades of drip feeding of house price propaganda. House price, yeah. As those of you who got my newsletter last night will know. Right, okay, on to we won't spend long on this because I think everyone's already kind of fed up with it. But last night, so everyone, I think, if you haven't heard about Rachel Reeves not licensing the home that she's rented out in Dulwich, then congratulations for staying offline so well for the last 24 hours. But it's all over the headlines yesterday and today and all over social media. And there were the amount of government, the Prime Minister's time taken up on this yesterday. But basically, they won't say she lied. No one's accusing her of lying, but she did. I'm accusing her of lying because it's there for all to see, right? You compare the letter she wrote yesterday with the letter that she then submitted later from the emails from her husband to the agent, and you can see that in her first email statement, she said, we were not aware of the licensing requirements, which in itself is utter cockwomble because only 10 days earlier, she herself had posted on her social media, on X and on Facebook about the importance of landlord licensing. I mean, not 2 weeks prior, she had been espousing the virtues of landlord licensing and then had the temerity to go, oh, we didn't know we were supposed to be licensed. Oh, no, we did know. Sorry, we did know. Oh, why would you put in an official letter to the government on headed paper that you didn't know something? Anyway, I did a long post on this yesterday and it went a bit viral. And my beef is not that she forgot to do the landlord licensing thing, right? that can happen. But when it happens to other landlords, they get £66,000 fines for an administrative oversight. The tenant can claim back a year's rent, right? This is what happens to people who did exactly what Rachel Reeves done. Now, it's up to Southwark Council what they choose to do and whether they choose to pursue her or not. It's up to them. It's not for Keir Starmer to let her off or not let her off. That question is about whether she's broken the ethics code or not. And the ethics advisor has said that he doesn't see any evidence of bad faith and therefore doesn't think she has broken any ethics code. But the outstanding questions here, in her first letter, what she should have said was, I admit it, I admit the breach, I apologize for the breach, and it is important that I must suffer the same penalties any other landlord suffers, and I will cooperate and completely accept whatever those penalties are. End of story. End of story. At that point, I've messed up. Treat me the same as everyone else. That's okay. I literally don't think. Yeah, people would have gone, "Oh my god, how can you mess up on that when you're the Chancellor and stuff?" But it would have been gone. We've made a mistake, and we must be treated the same as everyone else. But what it came across as was, I've made a mistake, and I apologise. So can you let me off, please? Then there's the question again of government competence, like. How? And it turns out Rachel Reeves' sister, Ellie Reeves, is the Member of Parliament for Dulwich, right? So they can't pretend they didn't know about the landlord licensing requirements. They cannot pretend that they did know anyway. And first of all, they said, "Oh, the agent didn't tell us." Then the email came out yesterday where the agent did tell them. So they panicked. They tried to cover it up. They lied, saying they didn't know about it when they did, and the emails prove that they did. And it's the way they've handled it. It's just so disappointing. And the way this letter from Keir Starmer is basically saying, it's clearly regrettable the information in this correspondence was not shared with me when you wrote to me also, but I fully accept that you were not aware at that stage of those emails. So don't worry. If you didn't know, it's okay. To me, that is the most powerful point. I accept you act in good faith of a sort of absolutely top level bureaucrat who wants to make sure that he lets his colleagues get let off and we don't actually have to accept any accountability. It just reeks of a lack of accountability and a culture of a lack of accountability amongst the government. That is what really grinds my gears about this. I accept you didn't mean to do it, and I accept you didn't know what you said in your email yesterday, so don't worry about it. That is the caliber of judgment of the people running our country, and it makes me sick. It does. Don't get into a proper rant, Charlie, but I would have loved to have gone round to Keir Starmer's house last night wearing this. Okay, question time. Less than 40 minutes of rambling. Frustrated home buyer says, "Morning, Charlie, from a crisp and spooky mid-Wales, Shropshire border, where the only things more scary than the expected ghoulies and ghosties are estate agent valuations and delusional asking prices." Very good, thank you. Peter Heddich says, "Wall Street first, Main Street follows." That's what happened in 1929. You're talking about, you're talking about central London and the FTSE, I expect. Cayman Black, "I've just realised my house is worth nothing." I'm assuming that you're joking to an extent there, but yeah, for those of you who think that the FTSE being up means that the UK economy is doing well, no, they bear no relation to each other. Oh God, you've shamed me, Scarlett, for being late. Yes, I was late. I'm always late on Fridays. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. Give me a break. Oh my God, that is a horror story. James 91H on YouTube says, "Morning, Charlie. Bad week for me. Spent 2 years finding the right property And 3 months into the purchase, the sellers decided they don't want to move anymore. Devastated. I did a video from the car just 10 days ago about this very thing. It is a trap that catches so many buyers unawares. You agree a deal and you just assume that it's going through. You assume the seller wants to sell, and then the sellers change their mind. I cannot recommend strongly enough that as every single buyer, you must ask for concise clarification of the seller's position. And if they are doing an onward purchase, you need to know whether there's a chain, whether that one has an onward chain or not. Because otherwise, this is what happens. Sellers start trying to move, it's too difficult, they just give up. Timo says, Charlie, can you elaborate more on your post earlier in the week about leasehold issues? Seems like a proper black hole, as you outlined. All I'm trying to point out is that the value of leasehold flats has been sliding, and I put up information on last week's Five Fact Friday about it that just showed leasehold flats are underperforming everything else nationally, especially in the south. But there's no index for them, so there's no cold hard smoking gun to show what's happening, and this is why agents and sellers alike are being caught. I mean, Carrington's, the only property they've launched this year under the best agent process with no valuations, the only property they've launched this year that caught them completely off guard was a leasehold flat. Some of you will have seen I've posted about it, and they thought it was going to. They genuinely, they had already sold other houses and flats under this new approach, and they genuinely believed that the first launch price of 485,000 was good value. The flat itself wasn't beautiful, but it was in a gated development with an indoor heated pool, private indoor heated pool all year round, and beautiful gated grounds. So amazing for a young small family or something, or people who want to have a swimming pool. And swimming pools cost a lot of money to maintain. So the service charges, without the pool and the gardens, the service charges would have been too high. But considering that it included a pool and stuff, actually okay. And they launched it at 485,000. Genuinely expecting, as it happened with every other property, that the bids would come in and it would probably go somewhere just above 500,000. And it tumbleweed at that price. They were I remember I was in the office with them, and they're like, anyway, they've now relaunched it at 400,000. So they've taken a good 20% off the price. And it is, it's okay value at that price. I haven't had an update on it yet, but this is the point. Like, even the most realistic of agents in the southeast are being caught off guard by just how badly flat prices have fallen. And someone who was messaging me yesterday about buying a leasehold flat said, you found a flat and you're comfortable the price is okay. And I'm like, I said, but you're the only offer, right? Okay. As long as you understand that means if you're the only offer, if you were to turn around and put that property back on the market the day after you sold it, would you get that price again? No, because no one else is offering that price. It's always worrying when you're the only offer. And I just think that, because leasehold prices have come down a long way in many parts, especially in London, people are going out there and thinking, okay, it's still okay to buy. And if you are buying to live in it instead of a long time, it is okay to buy if you'd rather do that than rent. But my point, what I'm trying to say about leasehold is that if you see that new build sales and constructions have collapsed completely, right? That's going to have a collateral effect on the rest of the market as well. And I just think that there's another important point to consider here with leasehold flats, which is that there is progress on leasehold reform. And there's also the possibility that there are a lot of people who are going, until we know whether or not leasehold reform is going to happen and when, it's too risky. So the market for leasehold flats is just a shadow of what it was. That's what I'm trying to say. That doesn't mean you should not buy. There are some leases in if you buy a leasehold flat with a share of the freehold, there are only two flats in the building. It's basically like having half of a freehold. The service charges are minimal. There's no management company to worry about. There are leasehold flats that are perfectly safe to buy. You haven't got to worry about any of the typical things. So it's not a blanket rule about leasehold, right? If you get a house that was a family house that's been converted into two or three or four flats, and each flat owns a share of the freehold, and there's no managing agent or managing company, and the service charge is basically agreed between the four of them, that's a very low risk leasehold scenario. Where it's much worse is where there's a management company, there's lots of communal parts, and there's lots of stuff to maintain, and those prices are just skyrocketing. Because as those service charges go up, it brings the price of the flats down. So yeah, that's all I was trying to say. Right. Stop that Lucas says, work? What's that? These are from the start of the show. The rich are leaving and cashing in. Yes, many of them are. Oh, my British thought leaders interviews come out, has it? Okay, cool. I didn't even know that. Where's that come out? I'll have to look at that. I haven't even seen it myself, so you've seen it before me. I'll have to look for that. Thank you, Kevin Flagg. I can't even remember what I discussed. Jean-Marc in Bordeaux says, I am a house price zombie. The market must go up. Steve1570 says, it looks like Mayfair and Park Lane aren't the great investments Monopoly led us to believe. Very true. But Capricious says, I'll still take them over the Old Kent Road. Wow. Dan on YouTube says, my Friday fun fact, US new home median price is lower than the median of existing home prices. It only by a few $100s. Keep in mind that new homes have a 15 to 20% premium. That's that shows overpricing. Yeah. So yeah, the US housing market's definitely got its wobbles. Yeah, lots of you talking about Rachel from accounts. Guys, but she didn't know. Windy Day in Brazil says, quoting an estate agent's email reply to my offer template, I very much wanted to write and thank you for submitting your best offer on the above property and for dealing with the matters in a very businesslike and straightforward manner. That's nice. But didn't get the flat there, sadly. Yeah, this is the point, guys. There's no guarantee of getting any property. You've got to just play the odds and give yourself the best chance of improving. Cayman Black says, my agent thinks Charlie's on drugs. Well, that's a fairly typical response from someone who doesn't have an actual rational counter argument to the things that I say. Oh yeah, well that nutter on YouTube, yeah, he's probably on drugs. Yes, probably worried that it'll make all their other stocks seem overpriced. Correct. Timo says, this is a very good question. Would making estate agents trained, regulated, and properly accredited make a difference? Any old chump can set up as one currently, and hence the madness of prices. Now, a lot of people think that it would make a difference, and here are the reasons it won't make a difference. First of all, there are already thousands of agents who are trained. They are all regulated already, and the ones who've done the qualifications are already properly accredited. And yet it makes absolutely no difference to their performance, right? Their sales success rates. There is no correlation that the properly trained and accredited agents deliver a better result than the ones without it. That's the first point. Although, having said that, I always recommend agents do go and get those accreditations, because why not? You're going to get trained, you're going to learn stuff. It's only going to make you a better agent if you get them. But the second thing is this: overvaluing isn't covered in the training. It isn't covered in the regulations. It's already covered in regulations. The Property Ombudsman Code of Conduct explicitly states that overvaluing is forbidden, but none of you ever complain about it, and so it's never enforced. Yeah, like all of you suffer from overvaluing, sellers, And none of you ever complain about it, make a formal complaint about it. So they're going to keep on doing it. It's already regulated. It's just not enforced. Because the public, sellers, don't seem to mind about their property being overvalued. Because they've been zombified. The house price boom mongers got to them. And it's in their head like a virus and you can't get it out now. Oh, that reminds me actually of one other important point. I've said a lot that if you're upsizing, you're okay. That is not entirely true. It depends whether you're upsizing from a second step to, if you're upsizing from a leasehold flat to a semi-detached freehold house, then generally speaking, the market's not going in your favor because leasehold prices are doing worse than semi-detached freehold prices. And so if you're upsizing from a leasehold flat to a freehold semi, the market is getting, that gap is currently growing on you. But if you're upsizing from a three-bed semi-detached freehold house to a detached freehold house, the market's going in your favor. Windy Day in Bristol says, I asked an estate agent for any bargains as a cash buyer. If it was that easy, if it was as easy as ringing up an estate agent and go, hi, have you got any bargains for cash? If it was that easy, that's what everyone would do. That's not how it works when you want to get a bargain. Okay. If you want to get a bargain, you have to, I need to do a whole video just on this, right? How savvy buyers get bargains. It requires skill, knowledge, persistence, and some luck, right? There's still no guarantee. There's no like, if you follow this step, you get a bargain. No, if you follow these steps, you start to improve your chances of getting a bargain. And if you keep on applying that process long enough, eventually the odds will work for you and you will eventually get a bargain. Bargains do happen. Occasionally it's pure dumb luck, but usually it's because well-prepared buyers do their homework, get in there, they know how to negotiate, they know how to spot a potential bargain. They're never advertised as bargains. This is the thing, guys. So uninitiated buyers think that bargains just hide somewhere. If you know where to look, you can just go and pick one up. It's not how it works. It's the OG t-shirt. Correct. Action Lax. Yes, you're right. I thought I'd get it out for the zombie apocalypse 5 Fact Friday. House price zombie apocalypse 5 Fact Friday. I mean, interesting question. Cayman Black says, surely we've been here before houses crashing, but what happens after the crash? Well, I think as I've said, this is a slide, not a crash. And it's definitely that statement, it's going to be a slide, not a crash, I think is bearing out more and more as time goes on. I think the slide is going to get a bit steeper and then it's going to level out. It's not going to be a bounce. There might be a slight bounce at some point, but because of the state of the economy, if you look back 20 years, you look at wage growth, look at everything else. If you're able to zoom out, look at the macro picture and the health and GDP per capita and all that kind of stuff. And this is where Richard Donald and I agree, it's just going to flatline, which is okay for affordability. It means affordability starts to improve. Patricia says, biggest culprits are the boomers downsizing who think their property is worth a lot more than they think. They're not culprits. I agree with you that they are the most likely to overprice their homes, but they are victims of the house price boom mongers. They have been brainwashed. They are the house price zombies. And I'm not mocking any boomers in that position when I say that. I'm saying that they have had more decades of house price propaganda being dripped in their ears than anybody. Right? And when they bought their homes 20, 30 years ago, they didn't know what was going to happen to house prices. So whilst they are the most, what's the right way of putting this? They overprice the most. I don't think you can blame them for it. I think the blame goes to the propaganda merchants, the house price boom mongers, the government, the new house builders, the lenders, the portals, and the agents putting out the price pumping guff. Right. In with two N's, Vesta 46222. That's a new name I don't recognize. Welcome to the channel. Who can spot what I'm going to pick up in this comment here? Investor's comment is, I've got 4 estate agents coming around today to value my mum's 4-bed terraced house as it's too big for her. Right. Investor, first things first, watch my video, 10 golden rules for home sellers. I will give you the link in the live chat right now, so there's no excuse. And watch it before they come round. Copy link address. Right, where are you? Do not let the agents in until you've watched this video. Just that one. Okay? Is it there? You're not asking for a value. The purpose of agents coming round, they say it's to value your house. They don't know they're going to get whatever numbers they give you, right or wrong, they are guessing. And one of the ways you know that they're guessing is because they're all going to say different stuff, right? It's pure guesswork. Agents aren't allowed to actually value properties. They're allowed to advise you on a marketing price, not valuing, right? If you want an actual valuation, you have to pay for that, something called a red book valuation, and it will come in at a much lower number than any of the agents you come around say. Now, perhaps if you're lucky, one of them will be a really good agent that says, I'm sorry, the number I'm going to give you is going to be a lot lower than the others. That's the agent you most want to listen to. But the question you need to ask is not how much is my house worth, because the only truthful answer to that is we don't know. Especially because you say that you're worried about it sitting on the market for too long, but you're worried about a low sale price. The only way to make sure that it doesn't sit on the market for too long and doesn't end up with a low sale price is to not overprice it to begin with. If you overprice it to begin with and have to lower the price later, it takes 2.5 times longer to sell on average, and you end up with a lower price. So the question you must ask the agents, please make a note of this, write it down. I will type it out for you, right? What is it that you do that other agents don't do that ensures competing bidders for my mum's home? That is the question to ask. Right. These are the people. So there's people like this commenter here, investor with 2 N's, who are watching my channel, clearly new here, but haven't yet picked up on all the advice I give to sellers. Please go and watch that video, please. Right. Where do we get to? I'm just trying to make sure I haven't missed any good questions here. Oh my God, I'm way back. Okay. Catching up. Okay. Grasby. Sorry, the connection keeps dropping out. I hope it's not interrupting too much. Yeah, Jill Hay says, I honestly didn't think we could get a worse government than the last lot. How wrong I was. Do you remember me ranting before the election saying, please, whatever you do, don't vote Tory or Labour, but especially don't vote Labour? I could see what was coming. Dan says, question, I'm starting to believe the government and banks are going to come and start jump-starting the real economy as they always do. You mean print money, don't you? The time has come. What is your opinion? I don't see it happening. I don't see any signs of it happening yet. They're still doing the opposite. They're still unprinting money. They're still quantitative tightening. but they're now starting to do it in smaller amounts. So they're slowly backing away from quantitative tightening, which is moving towards the direction of quantitative easing. But I don't. My gut feel is something worse happens this time round. I think, and Alex Scramwell will be proved right again about that. We're going to end up doing a debt jubilee. Oh my God, I've gone over an hour. Martin Berman says, is now a good time to buy a flat, price crash, and use it for Airbnb? Seems standard letting is a no-go due to no rights for landlords. There are certain locations where that might work very well. If no one else is buying it, and you know what you're doing. Wow. Angela Ramsey says, Keir Starmer is steeped in legal think, and in my experience, the most incompetence and allergy is to accountability is in that sector. Yeah, I agree with that. Dan says, the main reason for service charges going up is they've been sold by builders to hedge funds for its future cash flows for a big lump sum now. The main reason for service charges going up is inflation. Cost of labor, cost of materials, cost of inflation. And anyone who's bought a house with a budget from the thinking of 5 years ago to refurbish it is finding that actually it's like more like double. So genuinely service charges, so the costs of maintaining blocks has risen. Are some of them massively price gouging? Also, yes. Jean-Marc Bordeaux. I have obsessive house price disorder, OHPD. David Holloway. I watched the buy-to-let video at 5:30 this morning, Charlie. You mean the Renters' Rights Act video? 5:30 this morning. Wow, well done. All my viewers on Twitch are bots. That's annoying. Yeah, Capricious 2000 says, if we Brits just got past the whole my home as an investment, it would help a lot. I'd also limit house ownership to 2. I don't like any government imposed limits. I don't think people owning more than one property for personal use has been a problem. I think buy-to-let, retail buy-to-let mortgages were a government decision, and that was a problem. I don't, the number of people with second or more actual homes that they use. We're supposed to live in a free country, and if a free country means you can buy what you want. If it's for sale, you can buy it. You can't be told, you can't buy this because of that. That's not free. I don't like it. I do agree that there should be limits placed on buying property for investment reasons, as in buy-to-let landlords, or they shouldn't be encouraging that by offering massive leverage for people to go and do that. That's a problem. But I don't believe in limiting private ownership. But that's an ideological thing. Lots of comments. You guys have fun on the comments, don't you? I think it's time to wrap it up, guys. No, Scarlett, I was late. But most of these comments are just you chatting with each other while I ramble. Right, guys. I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you to those of you who signed up to my newsletter. If you want to be on the mailing list for that, it's mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Did any of you guys watching get the newsletter last night? Did it bum you out? My thought of the week. Thought of the week is, I've got to sort this out. I never know where to find the link to put on the screen. There it is. mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Lots of you sign up to that, and that's really cool. I hope you're enjoying it. I just a little heads up. I had a long chat with Suzanne Smith, who was my guest on Wednesday evening talking about the Renters' Rights Act. That video went down very, very well. I had a lot of really nice feedback on that video. Thank you, guys. And she's got her thing called her Landlord Hub. Okay. And I'm very aware that I have this massive sprawling amount of content. I literally thousands of videos. And if you're a new viewer here and you're actually a mover, I know lots of you watch the channel for fun, and I love that. I love that I've got an audience that just enjoys watching this stuff. But my priority is to really help people who are trying to move. Like, for example, that commenter who said, oh, I've got 4 agents coming around to value my mum's house. I went, no, not to value it. That's not what they should be doing. They should be coming around to explain to you how they're going to make sure they get competing bidders. That's all that matters. And I want to have a way where I condense all that knowledge and put it in like a digestible, programmable format, because it's so much, isn't it? There's so much to explain it properly. I mean, and actually working with agents and having to explain through all the 10 different phases that they go through, and how much subtlety and nuance there is in it. And that's what you guys as buyers and sellers need to understand. So I'm now starting to wrap my head around, is there a way that I can do that allows those of you who need the knowledge and the value of the content to access it in a structured and organized way, with occasional webinars just for that demographic, or just for that user group, and maybe even with occasional, I would really love to do just a meetup, like follower meetups, just casually in a pub. Just I would really, really enjoy doing that. But it's such a lot of hassle to organize. I don't particularly want to sell tickets to it. That's just so much hassle to organize. I would just like to turn up somewhere and say, I'm going to be in this place, in this room, and love to meet you all. I keep thinking about that. Anyway, all of these things put together, I'm just trying to work out if there's a way to structure it so that without it becoming an impossible drain on my time, because my time is my bottleneck, I can start to actually help people more effectively than I'm helping you now, because I'm very aware that my content is a sprawling mess. My content is basically a digital version of my video rambles. And I would love to have a course, or it's not because I want to make money from it necessarily. I mean, I would like to get the value that it's worth, but I would just like, for people who go, Charlie, I'm new here, I'm not going to go and watch 1,000 videos. I've watched your 10 tips, and that's great, but I really need to understand it more deeply. I'd like to say, well, okay, here is a properly organized, curated course for you to do. I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think. Oh, I would remember that name. I haven't seen it before. Bomballerina. That's a cool name. Bomballerina 55 says, Charlie's been spot on in his prediction so far, and I so wish I'd listened to him a year ago. What did you do? Did you buy or sell, or what did you do a year ago that you wish you hadn't done? Morning, Richard. Richard Green. I'm rambling. I'm going to go. Guys, if you're new here, please search for Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Buyers and Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers. Start there. I'll see you on the next one. Have a great, happy Halloween, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys. Have a good one.